Welcome back to the Silent Report. In a world where everything is connected, from power grids to social media feeds, from financial markets to your home's Wi-Fi, one simple truth remains undeniable: control the network, and you control the narrative. But what happens when that network collapses? Or worse, is taken down deliberately? On the 14th of October, 2023, a strange silence blanketed parts of the world. Power grids went offline, internet traffic dropped to near zero, airports froze mid-operation, stock markets paused mid-trade, secure military channels went dead. Over 50 million people across the United States, Europe, South America, and Southeast Asia were thrown into digital darkness. The world blamed a solar storm. But we're here to ask the question that no one dared to. What if it wasn't the sun, but someone behind the curtain? This is the story of the global blackout of 2023, a chilling event so perfectly timed, so eerily silenced, and so massively impactful, that calling it natural feels like an insult to intelligence. Because the deeper you dig, the more it looks less like a cosmic accident, and more like a coordinated, global test of total control. Let's begin. At exactly 14:08 Coordinated Universal Time, global monitoring systems recorded a synchronized cascade of power and internet failures across more than 18 countries. Grid interlocks failed, satellites glitched, two subsea internet cables off the coast of Taiwan and Singapore were severed. Stock exchanges in Frankfurt, Sao Paulo, and Seoul froze. In Washington, the FAA issued a full no-fly order for the eastern seaboard. NASA released a vague statement: an unexpected solar event caused geomagnetic disruption. The media repeated it like gospel. But here's the problem. No warning was given, no prior detection of a coronal mass ejection, no magnetic fluctuations, no aurora activity, nothing. Solar observatories, both public and private, showed no anomalies before the blackout. And yet, every time someone asked, "Where's the data?" they were met with silence. So let's follow the trail they erased. 7 days before the blackout, a classified report from the European Space Agency, leaked anonymously, described desynchronization patterns between satellites from three major constellations: Starlink, US Beidou, China, and NATO's classified COMSAT-X series. The report flagged one alarming sentence: simultaneous orbital disruptions cannot be naturally occurring. Likely cause: non-gravitational, external force or signal interference. Translated: someone jammed or manipulated these satellites, on purpose. 2 days later, undersea cable monitors registered twin disruptions near the Luzon Strait and Malacca Strait, two of the most critical internet choke points on Earth. No earthquakes, no ship activity, just failure. Meanwhile, data centers in Northern Virginia, Singapore, and Frankfurt quietly switched to cold backups. Cloud providers like Oz and Azure refused to comment. Cybersecurity firms were eerily quiet. And then, the lights went out. Not just in homes, but in places that aren't supposed to go dark. Nuclear command centers, military drone bases, central banking systems. All at once. Coincidence? Or a test? Enter Operation Eclipse. This name first surfaced on the encrypted whistleblower forums following the 2023 Discord leaks, a series of classified NATO simulation documents. One file titled op_eclipse_a1.pdf described a joint NATO-led exercise scheduled for Q4 2023 to simulate multi-regional blackout scenarios combined with digital isolation events. The document listed three core objectives. 1. Measure civilian behavioral compliance under communication loss. 2. Test government coordination in real-time under grid collapse. 3. Identify weak nodes in global digital infrastructure. But here's the catch. According to leaked emails from an EU cyber defense contractor, the simulation was greenlit for live testing on an unannounced date in October 2023. Unannounced, live, real. So now we're left with a haunting possibility. The blackout wasn't a glitch, it was a rehearsal. A dry run for something bigger. And it gets even darker. In the days following the blackout, over a dozen governments passed emergency digital security bills. These laws quietly expanded surveillance powers, internet censorship controls, and centralized grid management, all justified by the chaos of the blackout. But think about the timing. Within 72 hours of the outage, legal frameworks, thousands of pages long, were already drafted, signed, and implemented. As if they'd been written, long before the blackout ever occurred. And while the world recovered, someone was profiting. Between October 7th and 13th, the week leading up to the blackout, defense stocks saw unusual spikes. Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, Palantir Technologies, all saw gains of 6–12% in 5 days. Palantir, in particular, closed a quiet contract with the U.S. Department of Homeland Security on October 12 for post-disaster AI infrastructure monitoring. 2 days before the disaster. Follow the money. It always tells the truth. But this wasn't just about stocks. 3 days before the event, Netflix released a limited-run miniseries titled Dark Signal, a dystopian sci-fi thriller where a mysterious satellite failure triggers a global power collapse, leading to martial law and the rise of a global AI governance system. The show trended for 1 week, then was mysteriously removed from the platform in multiple regions. Here's what they didn't tell you. The production studio behind Dark Signal received investment from In-Q-Tel, the CIA's venture capital firm. Predictive programming, or preconditioning. And while the world focused on solar flares, other things were happening. Strange things. During the blackout window, UFO sightings spiked across continents. From Phoenix to Patagonia, from Ukraine to the South China Sea, reports of hovering orbs and triangular craft flooded social media, only to be shadow banned or deleted within minutes. In several regions, military jets were scrambled, but official statements never followed. Distraction, or connection, and then, people started disappearing. A Belgian cybersecurity analyst named Annelies Verhoeven had posted real-time logs from NATO satellites just before the blackout. Her last message on X read, "Greater than, this was no solar event. This was coordinated. If I disappear, look for Operation Eclipse." She hasn't posted since. Her LinkedIn profile is gone. Her employer issued a statement. She is on extended leave. A New Zealand data scientist named Lila Wong, who specialized in radio anomalies, claimed to intercept a structured signal from a satellite over the Pacific moments before the blackout. 2 days later, her lab was raided by local authorities for regulatory violations. Her research sealed. Her online presence scrubbed. Meanwhile, Reddit threads with technical breakdowns of global magnetometer data were quietly deleted. Posts referencing grid hack or cable sabotage were labeled as disinformation. It's almost as if someone wanted us to forget. But we haven't, because this wasn't a one-time event. In the months since the blackout, there have been smaller test events, sudden localized outages in southern India, parts of Turkey, and midwestern US cities. Telecom blackouts with no natural cause. Each time, the pattern is the same. No explanation, no accountability, and silence. Why? Because the purpose was never to explain. It was to observe behavior, panic, reaction, control. The global blackout of 2023 was not an accident. It was a message that they can switch us off, anytime. And when they do, we won't even know who did it. Was it a state actor? A corporate alliance? A rogue AI? Maybe it doesn't matter. What matters is what came after the blackout. A more surveilled internet, a more centralized grid, a more obedient population, and an illusion of safety restored, just in time for the next phase. Because if you think the 2023 blackout was the end, think again. It was only the beginning. They've already tested the switch. Now they know it works. So ask yourself, what happens when they flip it again? And next time, they don't turn it back on. This was the Silent Report. Stay aware. Stay awake. Before the lights go out again.